Welcome back for episode 2, and as Aaron Spelling would say, the exciting conclusion to our two-part series. Joanne Hickox from Jacksonville and Seniors on a Mission is joining us again this morning to talk about her important work with senior citizens in Jacksonville, and more importantly, spreading the gospel in new and innovative ways in an increasingly growing demographic in our nation. And so we're so glad, Joanne, that you're back this morning, the CEO and founder of Seniors on a Mission. Thank you all for joining us on The Christian Capitalist for part 2 of this episode. As you know, you can find all the information about our ministry in the show notes and the link tree that's attached to each episode, as well as our website, social media, other podcast episodes, and ways to buy the book on our website and on Amazon.com. Now, good morning, Joanne. It's good to see you again.
Good morning. Well, hello, Florida.
Hello, and I'm so glad that even though a day has passed, we decided to launder the clothes that we wore yesterday to keep everybody in the same zone that we were in yesterday for our discussion. It's good to see you.
Absolutely.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Joanne, thanks so much for talking with us yesterday about your really terrific and exciting stories. I hadn't heard John Ritter and Sharon Glass, those names in a long time, but it was terrific hearing those stories about the movie business and your move move out to Jacksonville. I wanted to loop back to as we kick off our discussion this morning and focus on Seniors on a Mission. I want to talk about an act of generosity that I think is worth highlighting at the beginning of our conversation today. You mentioned that in starting this small business selling barbecue equipment in Jacksonville, just like that, things turned around overnight with a company change. It sounds like at a public level. And then all of a sudden that you and your husband were in pretty dire financial straits. And as we were talking in preparation for our episode this morning, I wanted to remind everybody about this incredible act of generosity that someone took with you in that process, and that really helped you get to where you are today. Would you mind kind of digging into that a little more this morning? Because I think, especially for those who are watching the episode, and many people do watch our episodes in the morning before work, it's a great devotional to talk about the grace that God gives us through the people that we live with.
Well, this was a gentleman who, I believe at the time he lived in Texas, and he was a friend of Brian's, a good friend. He was a good friend of ours, but he was very connected with Brian and saw Brian more as a mentor. And he was in the stocks and bonds kind of accounting and really wanted to get somehow connected with the movie business. And when he heard about what was happening in our world, I mean, he didn't hesitate. It was like he was, first of all, he was used by God to bless us, but he came and literally bought us out, bought our furnishings, and then gave them to us. And it was, in that kind of a dark place, to have someone step in and bring the light, it was just, it enabled us to breathe for so long. And to this day, I'm grateful. Yeah. I mean, that was so many years ago, but he was used by God, and he was a blessing extraordinaire. And we still hold him in our hearts as one of God's miracles.
Isn't that wonderful? And I can't help but think that this week, as we, the United States, are trying to help the people of Texas recover from these terrible floods in the Hill Country, how interesting a connection it is that this man who was so involved in his act of generosity and his act of saving grace was from Texas. It reminded me, as I was talking about on a post on social media earlier this week, the Good Samaritan story is a response by Jesus to a question from a lawyer who's trying to justify himself. Who is my neighbor? Right? Who is my neighbor? And from my perspective, part of the blessing of this story you're sharing is that you're in Jacksonville in dire financial straits, and this friend from Texas said, I'm going to go and help. I mean, because it seems to me people from all over the nation are going to Texas right now to help out as best they can, because they understand that concept too, that your neighbor is everywhere. I also have to say, because you were saying, well, it's so many years ago. How many years ago do you think that was? Are we measuring it in tens or decades?
I think that was approximately 18 years ago.
Okay, so almost 20 years ago.
I'm not good with years. They just
Me neither. I just check how gray the hair is and then move on.
yes, exactly.
But Joanne, the reason I mentioned that, in particular with the Good Samaritan story, is that we focus on Jesus and the lawyer and the definition, according to Jesus, of who is your neighbor. And that story in the Good Samaritan is so important because the Samaritan takes care of the man who's left for dead, who's in such dire financial straits. But Luke doesn't tell us what happens to that man after he's saved by the Good Samaritan. We can hope and we can pray that he, the man who was saved, went on to do good things. And in fact, I think that's one of the things that we hope for. When we do good for others, that they will then go forth, just like Jesus told the lawyer, go forth and do likewise. And here you are doing likewise in Jacksonville. So tell us about Seniors on a Mission.
Well, as we discussed yesterday, it started with trying to get my master's in theology, and it was a whole bunch of service hours. I do want you to know I never did get my master's in theology. I
You got
still
on the
love.
job training, I think.
Oh yeah, I did. It was on the ground God training, that's for sure. I The ministry flourished. I mean, it started with that key lime pie concept
Right, just more
that,
slices, right?
and it was, yeah, and it was the ability to bring people together, but we very quickly figured out that they didn't need social patting on the back. They needed a purpose. They
Mm,
needed a reason to be needed.
mm,
And so what I started doing was creating volunteer opportunities. And I only knew them as volunteer opportunities because that's what I'd been trained up as a kid.
yeah,
You always, for part of your schooling, you had to do X number of hours of volunteer community service work. And so that's what I was calling it. And one day it was kind of like that same moment when the Holy Spirit hit me on the back of the head,
yeah.
when it was needed versus needy. It was, Joanne, this is ministry. This is mission work. This is not volunteerism. You're not part of the world. You are part of the kingdom of heaven. I went, okay, here we go. So we had a moment. It was a 2-hour event. And I very quickly learned that if you don't finish the work that you tell the seniors you're going to accomplish, it doesn't help.
Mm,
it They feel like they didn't finish it, they didn't accomplish the work they were supposed to do, and it left them,
yeah.
and I was like, you guys got so much work done, and they're like, but we didn't finish. And I'm like, okay, note to self,
Yeah.
that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. That's
So
an
I said, all
important
right, I'm going back.
realization.
Oh, it's huge. And I didn't know it. And it was, I'm 62 years old and I've learned a lot of lessons. And part of me is very excited because one of the things that we're going to try to do this year is create a toolkit to replicate this ministry so that other towns can replicate what we're doing here
Mhm.
what we've been doing for 26 years, and take all of the kinks and the bumps and the aha moments. They'll have other aha moments, but at least they'll live to know that what mine were. Anyway, when I realized that we had to finish the work, I asked them all, okay, can you come back tomorrow? And instead of working 2 hours, let's work 4 hours, and I'll make you lunch in the middle, and let's get this project done. And so we did that. Well, at the end of the day, we got the work done, and they were excited. They were excited. And they turned and they all looked at me and they said, can we always do 4 hours and you always make lunch for us?
Okay.
So hence comes the, food and fellowship always go together.
Mhm.
And I only made my world famous spaghetti. I mean, it's not like it was filet mignon. It was spaghetti.
And I can tell,
It,
just having known you now for the better part of 2 days, I can tell that world famous spaghetti is somewhat tongue in cheek, right? It's spaghetti.
actually, no,
Oh, okay. It
I
is
have
world
won an
famous?
award for it. I've won an award
No kidding.
every February the 14th because, Valentine's Day can really be miserable for older adults
Yeah.
that are alone. And the majority of the people I serve were older and were alone. So we created a cook-off, and it would be two or three of us from the church, and we would have a cook-off. And we would, one year it was chili, one year it was spaghetti, one year it was soup, one year it was, and it, my chili, my three ingredients, no, my spaghetti, three ingredients spaghetti. There was a guy that was cooked for 10 hours. He
Oh
was
man,
bubbling and he was stirring.
it's like on a TV show, huh?
I beat him hands down. So anyway, I digress. We decided from that point forward that we also needed a different name. So we started calling ourselves Seniors on a Mission. So that
There
was
you
the new
go.
name. Yeah, and originally the ministry was called Barnabas International Inc. because I had been called the daughter of encouragement a lot.
Huh.
And so a board member came up with it. And so we incorporated that name. If you go look at the 501c3s, you'll see that was incorporated in 97. And it was 10 years later that we decided this is ludicrous. Let's just go by the name of the program because, it didn't make a difference. So it became Barnabas International or Seniors on a Mission. And that actually came because we've gotten a bus and we wanted to put something, seniors in motion. Like we wanted to have we wanted people to know that this was a busload of senior adults. Get out of our way. Anyway,
We're on a mission
Seniors
from
on a Mission.
God. To quote
Yes.
another famous movie.
And the seniors saw it as their mission trip. It was, like I said yesterday, they could not go to a foreign country, but they could work for 4 or 5 hours as a team of, 25, 35, 45 people
Mhm.
and knock out a huge project for a local nonprofit. And the nonprofit would be stunned because, there's lots of ones or twos of people that come in and they want to do a project. And, there's typically 7 or 8 steps to doing a mailing. And if somebody has to sit there all day by themselves and do step 1 through 7, A, it's boring. Um, B, it's real easy if you've never seen this before to get the steps mixed up.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, they've done an entire day's work. And the person comes in and goes, "Oh my God, it's wrong."
Oh no. Yeah. And
And
that's frustrating for everybody.
it, it disappoints them, it disappoints the senior, and and so we recreated Mr. Ford's way of doing step A, then step B, then step C. And so if we're doing a mailing of, well, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, we would do an 18,000 piece mailing for them.
Whoa.
So like it was 18,000 pieces. There might have been 6 or 7 steps to that process, but every one of them took 6 or 7 steps to get one.
Yeah.
And we had to do 18,000. And that was not unusual at all. That was pretty typical.
And how
So
many days would it take y'all just to give our audience a sense of the scope of that? Because you
2
mentioned trying to
days.
get it in 4 hours. That seems like a lot of work.
Yep. And it would take 2 days.
Man,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
And if you fed us really good and at lunchtime, it would take a day and a half. So, but I would create a team of 2 or 3 people doing step 1 at one table, and then step 2 at the next table, and step 3 at the next table. So the work was, it would flow from here to here to here to here. The seniors only had to do one thing, so they didn't have to think about it. They just had to do that one
Mhm.
thing, and so they could talk. And then they got that fellowship and that
Sure.
love and that
Sure.
giggles and the laughter, and it was a riot. Well, when I would bring stuff from table 1 or 2 to the next table, if the seniors caught something that was, hey, this isn't being done right, I'd go back to that table and find out, okay, we had somebody that was left-handed and they turned it around by mistake.
Oh,
So
no.
we would turn all of their work upside down. Everybody else's stuff would get laid out one way, but because they were left-handed, we had to turn the work around so that it was done right. Or we'd find out that Susie just wasn't hitting on all cylinders today, and we don't know why.
Yeah.
So we called it getting a promotion. And we would take Susie to a different thing, a different table, and see if she could work better at that table, because that table always needed more help. Didn't matter if it did or not, it always needed more help.
You know what? Everybody
And
always needs more help. I love that.
yes, exactly. And so Susie would join that table. And if Susie didn't hit all cylinders at that table, I would end up taking her for a walk down the hall to say, hey, what's going on? What's happening?
Yeah.
There were so many times that we found out before the family found out that their new medication was just hitting them all wrong on, and it
Wow.
was not good.
Wow.
And it was a blessing because we had everybody's next of kin, close relative, best friend, whatever,
Right.
on speed dial.
Right.
And it was like, hey, you need to find out what's going on with Susie because she's not doing well. And we don't think should be driving. So we're going to take her home after the mission trip. She's going to stay for the mission trip. We're going to have fun. We'll just make sure that she's not going to do anything that will wreck the process.
Yeah.
But we're going to drive her home. But you make sure you find out what's going on. Another time, one of our ladies, I mean, we just couldn't figure out. She was like our number one gal, and sharp. We're talking sharp. And she was so far off, we could not figure out what was going on. And her husband had died the night before.
Oh, no.
And there was no other place she wanted to be
Yeah.
except surrounded by people that she knew loved her. And she just needed to come. And
Sure.
I mean, I was just stunned.
Sure.
But that's the way Seniors on a Mission rolls. I mean, so we've been doing that for
Isn't
26
that
years.
wonderful? And I got to tell you, in particular, that woman who was going through that grief process, just like we were talking about you going through the Northridge earthquake, just like we're talking about the folks in the hill country of Texas. When you're grieving like that, it helps to have a purpose and it helps to have community, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. She needed to be needed
Yeah.
because everything in her world had just collapsed, and all she needed was to be needed. And
And there she
that's what
was.
happened.
Isn't that wonderful? Well, I love.
And
Go ahead.
it doesn't have to be a catastrophe.
Right. Exactly.
Everybody needs it.
Exactly. And that's the other part that I love about your story, whether it's an adverse reaction to medicine or whether it's somebody who's going through a tough time. I think we all benefit from time with each other, and that kind of closer association gives us the ability to not only develop community with each other, which is so important, but to be able to tell when something needs to be addressed. Right, whether it's a woman whose medication isn't quite working and now she's kind of messing up an assembly line, or a guy in a Speedo answering the door who needs desperately to clean his house.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I was going to say was there are those short-term instances, but it's also the friendships that are built over a long period of time. There are so many older adults that are living right now with church hurt, and it's real
Mm-hmm.
and it's ugly. And to constantly come into an atmosphere where the love of God is just glowing, and just they can learn to trust again that God is good,
You know, I'm so
that God
glad to
is
hear
love.
you say that, Joanne. So I have two questions for you. The first is kind of theology. The second is more corporate. Um, what One of the principles of the Christian capitalist is that when we work, we glorify God. And that people who are not interested in going to church, either because they've just never been or they have a church hurt, when they go to work, they can worship God through the work that they do in the community that they build with others. What do you think of that?
Well, my name means God is gracious. Joanne means God is gracious.
Wow.
And that is something that I have, once I learned that, I realized, oh, that's what I've been operating in all of my
Yeah.
life. And I think the simple act of being gracious, of being kind, of being about your father's business, even though you're in the midst of whatever it is you're in the midst of, doing everything for the grace and goodness of God changes the atmosphere. And even if it's only the atmosphere that's directly around you, what is that guy on Charlie Brown that always has the cloud over him?
Right.
Well, we always have
Pigpen.
sunlight. Pigpen. Yeah. So, be the opposite of Pigpen.
Exactly.
Let the light of God shine around you, because just like the tent pegs coming out and getting larger and larger, the sphere of which we influence becomes larger and larger as we just continue to be faithful. And you can do that anywhere.
Yeah.
You can do that in the grocery
Yeah.
store. I mean, there are so many opportunities in the grocery store to bless people and to be gracious and kind. And I believe that no matter what we do, no matter what we're called to do, whether you're a plumber or an electrician or a cameraman or an airplane pilot, do your job with excellence. Do it unto the Lord, and you will give him glory, but the expanse of your light will just continue to grow and grow and grow. And it's who you become. It's every day we become more like Jesus if we will submit and let him have the lordship of our lives. If we will submit to that, the more we rebel and fight, it takes longer. But I think that what you are what your ministry is hinged upon, and what your mission statement um is a good one.
Oh, well, thank you. And amen.
It's
In the book, we call that shine. You and I are on the same page, whether it's the opposite of Pigpen and the halo. I call it shine in the light of Christ, right? People can see it a mile away in the grocery store, in the workplace, wherever
Yeah,
you are. I just love that.
yeah,
So, but
yeah.
and thank you, because you just hit the nail on the head, even though I haven't even sent you a copy of the book yet. You're going to love it, because you're going to say, wow, I feel like I just said this. Joanne, in particular, though, because we were just talking about this, I was on a podcast last night with my friend Jason Becker, who has a terrific show called What the Hell Do I Know? That's kind of I know, it's a great title. I just love it. But he did that because he's always given advice on life issues to his kids. And like most kids, it just goes, like this. And he's like, yeah, what the hell do I know? So we got into a little bit of church hurt last night and what that means for folks. When people are volunteering, when the seniors are volunteering for Seniors on a Mission, do they feel like they're going to church? Does everybody meet up at the church and then you take the bus, or do y'all have your own separate? The organization have its own separate facility, separate kind of activities. In other words, how tied are you to the church?
um we're tied to church parking lots. They're typically empty during the week, and they're a safe place for the community to come
Mhm.
and park their cars. So we typically use a church parking lot. Now, we've also used Publix or, Winn-Dixie or something like that, but not a lot. Not a
Gotcha,
lot. On the core, we use church parking lots.
gotcha.
Uh,
But Seniors on a Mission
and
is its own corporation and not affiliated with one particular church.
No, 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 no.
Gotcha.
We've probably had 100 different churches represented
Oh, wow.
in the
Okay.
seniors that participate.
Mhm.
We're blessed by 3 churches that help support this ministry. They understand the value of seniors, the value. They get this
Mhm.
ministry. Not a lot, not a lot of churches get this ministry. They love to send their seniors to us,
Right.
but. Uh, yeah, funding and supporting isn't always top of mind with churches, but they don't see us as a a missionary situation. And I've always called myself a missionary to Jacksonville's senior adults.
Wow.
And that is, which I'm trying to help churches understand that it's really important, because oh my gosh, a lot of churches have wonderful Bible studies for their seniors. They have wonderful potlucks for their seniors. And, there's some churches that have social outings. But over the last 26 years, some of the churches have realized, oh, we can do what Joanne's doing inside of our church.
Mhm.
And so I've trained up some churches, which is really good. But I go out to the people that don't have churches,
Mm.
and I bring church to them. We pray before every mission trip. We pray at lunchtime. We ask for, what is really on your heart? What do you need prayer for? And you can tell by my bubbly personality that prayer isn't in King James quiet like this. It is, all right, Lord, come on, grab the hand of the one next to you and let's pray.
Right.
And
Got to hold hands.
yeah, we're all in, and we're all in a big circle, so there isn't anybody that gets to escape unless somebody goes to the bathroom, and they're taking forever.
And that's going to
We
happen.
might say,
That's going to happen.
bless the one in the bathroom, Lord. But um, it becomes church to the unchurched, and they all know that if they've got something they need to talk to me about, because what you didn't know, because we talked about this yesterday, but I didn't tell you, a decade into Seniors on a Mission, my pastor came to me and said, Joanne, we need to get you ordained. And I was like,
Oh,
I don't need that anymore. I'm okay. I've been doing
wow.
the work that God's. And he said, no, the church needs to recognize what God's done in your life, and you need to be ordained. I said, honest to God, I don't. I I know my place. And he said, yeah, but the church needs to know your place. And I went, oh, okay. So I did it was interesting. I did it was either a 1 or a 2 year process with the pastoral staff. And we met for an hour or an hour and a half every week. And I had to bring my homework. And so I was ordained in,
Wow. Congratulations.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
wonderful.
So
After
I am
all of that,
Reverend. And
all of that uh, kind of drama and all of that anxiety that you had years before, 10 years before, and then all of a sudden he offers this to you and you're saying, no, I don't want it anymore.
I know.
That's
Isn't that the way God works?
Yes, yes, it is. We just in our lectionary based service in the Episcopal Church, we had the story of Elijah and Elisha.
Yep.
And when Elijah is called up to heaven, he says, "Okay, Elisha, here's the mantle." Right? If only it were that easy. I mean, Elisha had to go through a lot to get that mantle, right? But that ordination, that kind of, hey, everybody
Do you know
needs to
what?
know this is important.
Elisha walked with Elijah.
Yeah,
And that's something that my pastor said to me when I started into the ministry. He said, Joanne, find a ministry. If find a ministry that you want to do, and do whatever they say. And even if it's clean the toilets, even if it's clean up the children's room, but find a ministry that's doing what you want to do, and serve there. What Steve didn't realize was nobody was doing what I was
yeah,
doing. And so, I was a pioneer, and I was, he just thought that this was going to flow in. I would come under, kind of like under the covering of another ministry, and then break out. Well, no, God broke me out from day one. It
right.
was just like, okay, she's going to learn how to do this all with me. And I'm like,
And so,
but yeah,
so are you still with the church that ordained you? Or are you still worshiping there and on the staff there?
actually, I try to go every couple of months, because I am now trying to be get my doctorate at a
Wow.
different, and you have to participate in that church, because 3/4 of the learning is actually on Sunday mornings.
Wow.
So but I literally, I have It's a Beaches Chapel Church. I went to church there for 20 many years. And I mean, I still am considered family there, and I am one of their supported missionaries.
Isn't that
So
wonderful? Beaches Chapel.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
where are you getting your PhD, and what are you getting your PhD in? This is fantastic.
Actually, it's with Eastgate Fellowship, and it's a long drive for me. I'd much rather
Yeah.
go to Beaches Chapel, but I'm working towards just a simple ministry doctorate, and they're trying to tailor it for me for senior adults because
Wow.
there's not a lot for just seniors, and they see that what I'm doing is um, it's different than being a senior pastor. It's a whole anyway. They're tailoring a doctorate to me in
That's
ministry.
wonderful.
So
You were getting ready to talk about how churches may have a mindset or a paradigm about senior ministry that you, in the process of developing Seniors on a Mission over the last 27 years, have changed. What's that look like? Because you interrupted yourself a little bit, but I want to pursue that because I think you're getting ready to say something really valuable for the members of our audience who are pastors.
well, it in our country on a whole, seniors are not honored. Seniors are they sit in the back rows, and the youth are up front, and it's a weird combination unless it's an older congregation and they're all older. um
That's where most of the
and,
churches where I have served.
well, and the problem there is, it's out of balance again. But I feel like a lot of the newer churches and the hip churches are unbalanced because they focus on the children.
Mhm.
And yes, I know the children are our future, but we must honor. I mean, well, I think it was Peter that in the book of Peter it talks about, Peter, do you love me? Feed my sheep.
Mhm.
Peter, do you love me? Feed my lambs.
Mhm.
Peter, if you love me, nurture my sheep. Um, and I read that a number of years ago. I was kind of like flipping through it, and God said, whoa, 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 go back, read that. And in that scripture, it talks about lambs once, and it refers to sheep twice. And lambs are babies,
Yeah.
sheep are mature, they're older. So to me, it was like God was saying, yeah, children are important, but I'm wanting you to go after my sheep. Now, that may just have been for me. I don't know.
Hey,
But
but Joanne, that's the whole value of Scripture is what does it mean to you to then go forth and put into action as God
yeah,
calls you?
so I'm really trying to help churches to bolster their seniors ministry, because we need to honor our mission statement starts with Seniors on a Mission exists to honor. That's our first
I
word.
love that.
It's the most important thing
I
is
love that.
we need to honor our older adults. And when I say older adults, I'm talking about anything 55 and older, because
Yeah.
after 55, life changes at 55, and we're not a senior adult. We are an adult, but we're slightly older. So, and we're wiser. I mean, we've lived through some stuff, and there is there are so many promises in the Bible about honoring the elderly and the older adults and the wise ones, that we need to do that. And this country doesn't do that. We just they're at the curb,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And
It's so funny you say that when we, at the Christian Capitalists, try and define the poor and the needy, we use words like marginalized. And that doesn't just mean the homeless who are often elderly. That just means the elderly. Because our nation, for whatever reason, I agree with you completely. Our nation has tended to say, oh, put them off to the side. Rebecca and I, my wife Rebecca and I were blessed to have just visited Italy in May and June. And you know what we didn't see? We didn't see nursing homes and assisted living facilities everywhere. You know,
No,
it's just it's
they
a
live.
different culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love that you're creating that. The Greek word is koinonia, right? The community of faith. You're creating koinonia around your seniors on a mission. So
Yeah.
how do the seniors interact? I mean, you are a very powerful person and a daughter of encouragement. I just love that. Um, but how do the seniors interact? Are they creating their own community?
Yes. And the mature, the ones that were walking with Christ in a deep way, I reminded them that every time they came on a mission trip, they were part of the mission fabric. They were part of being a missionary to maybe the younger ones, or the ones, when I say younger, I mean younger in the Lord, not
Ah,
younger in
yeah.
age.
I was going to
And
say there aren't 30-year-old stowaways on these trips, right?
no, no, but we do have 30 and 40-year-old volunteers who come and they're just flabbergasted. When we have 18-year-olds show up, they're like, I can't believe how much work they get done. And they're having a good time. I mean, these people are fast. They're good. We always, and we blow every nonprofit that we ever work for, we blow them away, because when we go there for the first time, I'm always saying, please have another project. Please have 3 or 4 projects in the background, because you're not going to be, you're going to be shocked at how much they're going to get done for you. And it's going to be done with excellence. And so there's a wonderful, because they're in teams, there's the beach team, and they're not based on the church location, they're based on the location. So it's not the Beaches Chapel team, because that brings in pride, and that brings in, like, it's the beach team, because all of these people from the beach area get picked up at, we just happen to use Beaches Chapel's parking lot.
Gotcha.
There is the Towers team, because they're downtown. There's the Murray Hill area. There is Lakewood. So it depends on we found out very quickly that you cannot use a specific name, because Satan loves to just come in with pride, with um, clicks,
Yeah.
with this, them and us. It was like, no, 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 no. We are all the people of God. We all bleed red. We all have the blood of Jesus running through our veins. So, all of that led to a whole different feeling of church again, because it was the love of God that was the core of what we did. We honored people, honored God. And so, yeah, it was a church, but it wasn't a church. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody
Yeah.
could walk in off the street, and it wasn't, we weren't Bible thumping, we weren't doing anything like that, but we were there's a song in the Catholic Church, and I don't, it may be, they will know us by our love.
Yes, they will know us by our love. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And that's directly quoted from Jesus in the Gospels.
yeah.
How
So
will
it
they
was,
know? They'll know you by your
yeah.
love.
How will they
Yeah.
know us by our love?
Yeah.
And it, in love, you put the other person first. And that's also in honor. You put the other person first. That's also love the Lord your God and your neighbor as yourself. Well,
Mhm.
you got to really, I mean, we really love ourselves.
I
We
love that.
clothe ourselves very nicely. We do our hair very nicely. We put on a little bit of makeup nicely. I mean, we really love ourselves. We don't ever think of it as loving ourselves. But if we could love our neighbor as much as we love us, oh my gosh. And that's what I try to embody and exude, so that it always starts at the top, right? Whatever is at the top will trickle down to everybody.
Yes.
And so if God's at the top and Joanne's the steward of what God's giving her, then hopefully everybody catches it.
Yes.
And
Yes,
yeah, so
exactly. And that is when Jesus is telling the apostles, "He who must first must be last." And we are here to serve first. That's what
Yeah.
servant leadership looks like. You reminded me. We say in the book, Martin Luther, 500 years ago, said the ultimate Christian life is being a sort of Christ to your neighbor. Sacrificing
Yeah.
yourself and putting your neighbor first. I just love that. So I got two questions for you as a follow up. How do you find volunteers? How do you find charities to support? Or does at this point your seniors on a mission is big enough, everybody comes to you?
Well, it's a balance because you got to have enough work for enough seniors.
Right.
And for the longest time, we didn't have to advertise for seniors at all, because occasionally, if we felt like we needed to have a few more seniors, we'd have a each one bring one kind of day.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say 95% of people that came stayed. I mean, I've had people who've been a part of the ministry for 17 years, 18
Wow.
years. Yeah. Yeah.
And for
I
a
mean,
senior ministry,
long
what a
time.
blessing that they're still around to continue to volunteer.
Exactly. And then after they weren't able to volunteer anymore, they always wanted to stay on the newsletter because that newsletter was monthly information about the family.
Yeah.
And so, and everybody's birthdays, and they wanted to keep up on my family, what's going on in the world of Joanne and what's going on in the world of Howard. And, so the different staff members were part of the newsletter. And that newsletter still today, hundreds of people get
Isn't
it.
that wonderful?
Um, and nonprofits were a bit of a challenge, only because when a nonprofit would get us, they wanted to share us, but they really didn't want to share us because they were afraid that we wouldn't have enough time for them. But we really learned how to touch bases in a way that said, "Hey, we got seniors that need something to do. Do you have anything to do?" And if they didn't, I'd say, "Do you know another nonprofit? Because
Mm.
if I don't nurture this group of people, they're going to miss out." And you know how much fun they have because they've already worked with the seniors. So that way they would share other
Oh,
nonprofits.
that's
And,
great.
we're at 130 nonprofits. So it's not like we don't have enough
Wow.
um, connection. Yeah.
And so
Now, I will say all of that collapsed at the pandemic.
you're reading my mind. How did it go during COVID? Good.
Oh, COVID was not fun.
Yeah.
We were when it started. Now, before it really hit the news, we had a person from Florida Blue on our associate board, and they were in on a phone call, high level phone call, and we're throw every year we throw a thank you party for the seniors, and it was filet mignon and it was sit
Wow.
down gorgeous. I mean, it was like you were coming to a wedding feast,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Jesus would do.
I read those are
And
important
the
somewhere.
first miracle. Anyway, so it was we were in the throes of, we were probably 3 weeks out from, we'd been planning for 6 months, and I got a call saying shut it down, and I was like, what? And they're like, shut it down, Joanne. There is something coming that you do not want to be involved in the risk of putting these seniors at risk. And I was just like, I'm going to have to pray about this,
Yeah.
because I couldn't believe him. And I had there was no understanding. There was nothing that I had a inkling of, because it was so new. It was so new. And I grabbed one of my staff members and we got on our knees, because we were just like, the cost involved, the disappointment for the
Sure. Sure.
seniors, all the work that had gone into it. And I was just like, and we got on our faces before the Lord, and it was like, God, we need to know this answer quickly, and we need to know. We got to know that we know that we know that we've heard you. And we got up off our knees knowing that we had to shut it down. And everything in me was angry. I was
Of
just
course. Of
furious,
course.
and it was, but okay, God, if you say it, we're gonna do it.
Right.
I'm so thankful we did,
Yeah.
because now I
Probably
will say,
saved lives with that prayer, you know?
um, yes, because we wouldn't have known how to protect the seniors We very so anyway, we shut everything down. We had mission trips we shut down. I mean, we did a few, just the ones that were already on the book. We canceled all the ones that we could. But all of a sudden it was like lockdown time and everybody was forced to stay home. And all of their kids were literally going to them with a smartphone or a
Nice timing on your ding
tablet
there, by the way. That was great.
or a tablet of some sort. And they're like, what do we do with this? You know,
Oh, yeah.
they're used to picking up a phone. They're not, I mean, some of them had tablets or phones, but they only used them as the phone. They didn't use them for anything else. So for the first while, we jumped into making phone calls to all of their seniors to say, what's going on? How can we help? What do you need? And we found out that a lot of our HUD housing seniors couldn't get out to get food.
Okay.
And okay, we've got a big air conditioned bus. How can we partner with Feeding Northeast Florida and get food? Let's just travel food to the and for the first 6 weeks, that's all we did is we worked with Elder Source and Feeding Northeast Florida to get food
Wow.
delivered to where as many of the HUD locations where
Wow.
we had seniors and even where we didn't have seniors that worked with us, we were delivering
Isn't
food.
that wonderful?
Now
So you were a
everybody went
giant
into that
Meals on
pantry.
Wheels. I love it.
Exactly. Huge. And I mean, rain or snow, rain or shine, we were delivering. And after that, Feeding Northeast Florida really got the flow of it, and we bowed out. It was like, okay, God, our season with this is over. What do we do next? And right after that, we created comfort bags. A lady came to us with hundreds of comfort monkeys. And this was a project that she had done years ago. And it was a monkey that was the softest stuffed animal I had ever seen. And it had a pouch that it had around its belly where you could put a love note. And she said, Joanne, can you use these? Because these matched books and we're done with the project and we've got these leftover monkeys. And I went, absolutely. So we created bags and we put in coloring pencils and promise books for adults that were promise coloring books. And Max Lucado donated books for us to put in that were like some were 30-day and some were 365 days worth of, encouraging words. So we had all of this stuff. And then we also added toilet paper and
Yeah,
we
sure.
added proteins. And, the city gave us money to put food, like protein bars and that sort of thing. So we started delivering these comfort bags, but it wasn't like anything else. We delivered them with 2 lawn chairs.
Mm,
And so we would invite the senior to come outside and sit 6 feet away from us and just
yeah.
talk.
And once again,
Here's your
showing the
comfort bag.
importance of community and spending time with each other. I just love that.
And for some seniors, it was a 15-minute conversation. For some seniors, it was a 3-hour conversation.
Wow.
And it depend like we had senior adults. One senior adult, their grandson had died
Mm,
and they couldn't go to a funeral.
yeah. Yeah.
And they needed to talk that out. And we had seniors who just, they were active and full of life. And now they were quarantined to a space this big that had nothing but memories of the past. And they wanted a future.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, we delivered over 450 comfort bags. We did them in 2 different rounds, and we had phone calls from people that said, would you please go visit this? I mean, we ended going way out into the middle of nowhere, outside of the typical Jackson. We were in no man's land and sitting on the lawn with a person that just needed to talk.
Isn't that
So,
wonderful? God bless you.
and then we our rent went from $500 a month to $5,000 a month. Yeah,
What on
that
earth?
that that face. Yeah, we were like, God, what's going on? This is higher than any budget
Yeah.
monthly item that we've got.
Yeah.
including our staff. I mean, what the?
Yeah.
And so the staff and I went off. One of the seniors gave us their cottage because they couldn't go to it, but they gave us the key to their cottage and said, "You guys go off and pray." And so we planned to pray, to fast, and to not talk.
I've heard
So
that
we
working with
had,
teenagers. How did it work with you and your staff?
oh my gosh. So and we had to add no electronics because, that was new. So we did that. And I went outside and I essentially mowed the lawn, picked up the twigs, did the exact same thing that I asked the teenagers
Yeah.
to do. I was doing for this senior adult. Um, my staff members cleaned the house, they cleaned the kitchen, they cleaned the, and then some of them went outside, they picked weeds. It was an incredible, and I had this little flip thing, with a hand, flip it and you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
write
Yeah.
notes, and it was only about this big, and I had it in my back pocket. And so every time we were praying all day long, we just prayed in the spirit, and it was, sometimes we prayed with English, and sometimes it was in the spirit, and then God would say something, I'd write it down. And then I would just be quiet and motor around. And when I was praying up here. I wasn't praying
Right. Right.
because we had to be quiet. So
I imagine that was really hard for you. In yesterday's episode, didn't you? Weren't you called Motor Mouth as a child?
yeah. But I have learned when and how to be quiet, because God speaks
Yeah.
in a still small voice. You have to be quiet to get there and to hear him, and he'll speak just like that. I mean, you don't have to do it for hours and hours. You can just shut up for 15 minutes and God will do it. But I wrote all of my stuff down. Margaret got 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, and she had them all spread out over the table, and she had them defined by different kinds of thoughts, and then she would write her stuff down. So anyway, it came 4:30, 5 o'clock. We were like, we knew this, it was over. So we did a Facebook Live to tell everybody, because everybody knew we were going. And so we did this Facebook Live, and we just explained how we just broke our fast by electronically, we're doing this, and we don't know yet what the Lord has said. I know what the Lord has said to me. She knows what the Lord said to her. And we just decided, we're going to come together. We're going to eat first and then we're going to see what the Lord has to say. So we did. We talked a lot over our meal, but we grabbed our pieces of paper, and it came, and there was a lot of different things, and there was a lot of things that we matched on that sounded the same. It was a different voice because, God was speaking to me, and I hear God in my voice. She heard God, but the tonality of everything matched. But the one thing that was like circled on mine and circled on hers was to go mobile.
Mm.
And we had no clue what that meant, but both of us knew that that was the most important, that was the key thing from that time away. That day of silence was we were to go mobile. So we went back and we talked to our board. We talked to some of our key donors, and we told them what we thought we'd heard from the Lord. And one key donor said, "We believe you're hearing God, and we're going to help you." And I said, "Okay, well," we prayed about it a little farther and decided we were going to get a mobile unit, a motorhome, I guess you'd say, 4 wheels and an engine.
Wow. Oh, so
And it would,
this is when you talk about going mobile, this is, you already have the bus to transport the volunteers around to the different facilities, or is
well,
this where the bus came from?
we actually had a bus, but we wanted to go with a motorhome
I see.
because we wanted to bring people up on. And my whole thing was, I need a motorhome that pops out on both sides so big that it feels like you're coming into a home, not into a trailer.
Yeah.
And we found one, and we were very excited about it. The foundation that came alongside of us said, "Oh, we really like this. You're onto the right track." It fell through. We didn't move fast enough. And then another one came along, and this was during the season while my mom was dealing with cancer. So every quarter, I would go drive to Canada and spend a month with my mom to relieve my dad of
Wow.
his caregiving duties for my mom's stage 4 cancer. But I was in Canada when all of this happened, and I saw the motor unit. Then I had to drive to Canada, and so Margaret actually ended up kind of working through this. But we found a 40-foot diesel A-frame motorhome that had a pop out on one side, and then the whole other side popped out,
Wow.
and so it was huge. And it had a king size bedroom in the back. And a pastor friend of ours said, he was also into construction and his work is excellent. And he said, I can change that into an office for you. So he took the bed out and he made it into an office with a pop-up that made it into an area that could become training area. And we thought we were going to do little mission trips, just go around and nurture everybody's. It was a major disaster. Major disaster. And I'm like, okay, God, you are the one that told us to go
Go mobile,
mobile.
right? What
Why isn't
happened?
this not working? And we surveyed the seniors and said, okay, God told us to get this mobile unit. What do you want?
Yeah.
And the majority of the people said, we need help with our technology. Can you teach us how to use it? And so we took that mobile unit and we've been all over Northeast Florida. I mean, we've been to 5 different counties with that mobile unit.
Wow.
And we loaded it full of internet. We put in an air filtration system. Everybody could wear a mask and they could have COVID and never share it with anybody. That's how good the air filtration system
Wow.
was. Now, we legally did masks. We did what was required during that absolute gotta must. But there were some seniors that said to us, I can't hear you.
Right.
Can you please take your mask off?
Sure, of course.
And so I said, as long as you're okay with that, we're fine with that too, because we knew the system that we had in the mobile unit. Nobody ever got sick. And I'll be honest with you, in all of COVID, we didn't lose one senior to COVID.
Wow. And there's another praise bell. I love that.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding.
That's
So
fantastic.
anyway, we
Congratulations.
have been teaching technology for 5.5 years.
Yeah.
We're still going strong. We are trying to sell the mobile unit, and actually, it's going up for auction here. It's costing us too much money now, and we don't need it because we have such a reputation in this town now that we just bring the internet to wherever, and they give us a great big room. And it's not because of anybody's afraid of catching anything. We just need to not hear each other's conversations.
Right.
So we spread out.
Right.
But yeah, we're desperately trying to unload. But everybody and their brother was buying a mobile unit
Yes.
when COVID hit, because that was the only way to truly have a nice vacation within your own family unit.
Yeah.
So now there's a flood of them on the market, and unfortunately, we're praying. This is a prayer request.
Okay.
We pray because it's going to go on auction next week, which may be later than when you post, but you pray for the right people to be bidding on this thing that really want to help the ministry, because it's a good unit. It's been taken care of extraordinarily well, and we want to see it. And we've already committed to tithing to another organization that's doing a building. So it's like, okay, not only are you going to help Seniors on a Mission, but you're going to bless another organization. So
fantastic. Yeah. All right. So having said that, please send, because we'll see when this comes out. Maybe we can get it out even sooner. We'll see. Please send me a link to the auction. Is it going to be an online auction, or is it in person in Jacksonville?
Oh, Bring a Trailer. The website is called bringatrailer.org or .com.
Gotcha.
And yeah, it's a great organization.
Bringatrailer.com. I think I've heard of them before. All right. And then second, also, I'd like to know what charity y'all are supporting.
Eastgate Fellowship.
Okay.
We are building a building. We are not building it. We are leasing a building, and we're totally renovating it. But it's going to become a ministry hub for. We're in Costa Rica today. Like right now, we have a team in Costa Rica, but we also go to Wales. We've been to. We're
Isn't that wonderful?
the nation is. We are not a typical church. We are a fellowship of
Yeah.
people, of believers that believe that we're called to the nations. And while everybody else thinks they're called to the nations, I'm called to the United States.
Exactly. Well, an Eastgate Fellowship sounds like it's got a lot of different ministries going on, because isn't that how you're getting your PhD?
Yes.
Wow.
So they have a school. They are very much into helping people have freedom through deliverance, inner healing, and there's a 4 or 5 step, um, eight course, 8 courses per step on getting free and getting rid of church hurt.
Yeah, I
So
love that. I love that.
I'm big into
All right. So,
into freedom.
Joanne, yesterday you mentioned, or I guess, yeah, yesterday at the end of our conversation, you mentioned something like, "Hey, did I tell you that Seniors on a Mission has 3 parts?" Have we talked about those parts today and just not labeled them as one, two, three? Or
Well, no, we've only done 1 and 2. So one is
stay
the
tuned for
mission
the
trips.
exciting conclusion tomorrow.
Oh no, really? Do we had our time?
No,
Oh
no.
my gosh, we're at time already?
No, 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 we're not at time. I'm saying
Okay,
it's been an hour, and
okay,
just like yesterday, a fast hour. So,
fair. Okay, so
so no, we're not
one
at
was
time. I
mission
just want to
trips.
make sure we're covering the full waterfront of what y'all are doing at this wonderful ministry.
Mission trips. 2 was technology pop-ups, and 3 is G3 Village.
Ah, okay.
Early on, very early on, but it didn't become a reality for me until about 3.5 years ago. I realized that the ministry that we were doing with Seniors on a Mission, I mean, we survey the seniors all the time. Our surveys are so high. People always think that we are lying because nobody gets in the 95 percentile all the
You
time.
mean in terms of
And I'm
response
like,
rate? 93
on fulfillment.
respondents to your survey, a 93% respondents.
No, 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 no. All the people respond and say, this ministry is out of this world.
Oh, I
This
see.
is fabulous. Don't change it.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. It meets our needs, blah, 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 blah. You
So
know,
your approval rating is sky high.
sky
Oh,
high, and
that's wonderful.
so high to the point where it's embarrassing because everybody thinks we're fudging the numbers. And I'm like, y'all, just come on a mission trip, come on a technology pop-up,
Yeah.
understand why, we do what God's called us to do, and we don't vary from it. And we've been one of those ministries where this is what we're called to do. This is who we're called to bless. And we don't, we're not trying to cover the waterfront.
Yeah.
We know what we're called to do, and we've stuck to it. Well, what God is bringing us to when in the early years, we knew that when the newsletter gave them a boost of, when we first started, it was all about isolation, loneliness, and depression. We wanted to hit those things. We used honor, love, and encouragement to hit isolation, loneliness, and depression.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we countered those. And when the newsletter would come, they would see, oh, their mission trip for their team was on this day. So they were excited. And then they booked their doctor's appointments around it so that they did not, bump into their mission trip. And they were excited and excited. And then they had the mission trip. It was a fabulous experience. It was like a 98%. Yay! But that glow would last for a few days, and then all of a sudden they were still living alone in their own home.
Mm-hmm.
They were isolated, they were lonely, they were depressed. And so there was this window of joy, but then it was another 2 weeks before they got the next newsletter to find out when their mission trip was on the next month. And some of the people got wise, and instead of taking the bus, they drove their own car, and they would show up for XYZ teams.
Ah,
And all of a sudden, my 25 people became 45 people because people were showing up they weren't part of that team. So we started a mighty missionaries team because they were there all the time. And it was like, all of a sudden the mission trips got so big that I needed a staff, and we don't have
Right,
staff.
right.
So we created this mighty missionaries, and oh my gosh, it was a blast. But oh, I'm sorry, that was a rabbit trail. Where did I where
Nope, we're talking about the
oh,
G3 Village.
yes. So anyway,
Stay
anyway,
with me, Joanne.
the yeah, we noticed that the downtime, the glow didn't stay. And very early on, I realized if we really want to change older adults' lives, if we really wanted to have a purposeful life, we had to change where they lived,
Mm.
because they were going home to a place alone.
Hmm.
Because the focus for me was independent living, senior adults living in their own home, not in I don't do except HUD housing, because in HUD housing they still live in their own place alone. There may be some social things that go on, but they they were a very special group. So I kept HUD buildings, but everybody else lived alone, typically alone. Now, they might have been a couple. I had a number of couples, but they were still couples that lived alone in their own home.
Right.
So when early on I was like, God, you're right, we got to change housing. And I don't know, I started to learn about senior housing, and well, the big emphasis came when I was in Canada. It was during the pandemic. And in Canada, I don't know if you know, but Canada's lockdown was much more stringent than other
Mm.
countries. And so I had a green card to get into Canada into the United States, but I had a Canadian passport. I was one of the very few people that could cross the border. Um, so I would do a COVID test, days before. I did a COVID test driving up because I drove. I didn't want to be on a plane
Sure.
with a bunch of other people because lots of people got sick that way.
Yeah.
Um, I wore a mask when I was even just pumping gas because I was afraid of, what would happen. But my mom had stage 4 cancer.
You
So
can't take a
I
risk.
wanted to do absolutely everything. So I would cross the border. I'd have to do another blood test as soon as I got to the house at my mom and dad's place. They had a downstairs bedroom. So I lived in that downstairs bedroom for the 10 to 14 days, depending on what Canada had different rules at different times. But it was a minimum of 10 days. And even though I had 4 negative tests, it didn't matter. You were quarantined for 10 days in the basement.
Wow.
But they allowed you 1 hour of fresh air. So I would creep out through the garage and sit on the driveway. My dad had a driveway that went from the house down the little hill to his shop in the back. So every day for 10 days, I got 1 hour of fresh air.
Good grief.
And one day dad came out of the house, and he did this 6-foot walk around me. And as he's walking around me and heading to his shop, he said, Joanne, you don't have to worry about me. When your mom passes, I'm going to go live over there. And my father, for 25 years, had lived right next door to a senior living community. What he didn't know, as soon as mom was diagnosed, I went flying into that place to say, okay, tell me all about your place, because eventually my dad's going to be alone, and he lives right next door to you, and he knows it's the area where he lives. He'll be happy. I walked away from that going, my father will never live there because I wouldn't let my dog live
Oh
there.
no.
And it was July. My mom died on July the 28th. And it was Christmas just before that July that they actually shut the place down.
Wow. That bad.
So, yeah. So I'm sitting on the driveway, right? Dad's walking around telling me this, and dad doesn't know that I've been there. Dad never been in it, so he has no clue.
Uh,
And I'm literally, okay, God, what are we going to do about this? Because my daddy is not going to live in that. And I every day got a download and a download and a download. And then I called my pastor friend who fixed the mobile unit.
Hmm.
And I said, have you ever done senior housing? And he said, yep. And I said, have you ever dreamed about senior housing for like modest to moderate income? Again, staying in my lane, not HUD, not high end, just for the people that I have been working with. And from that started G3 Village. Now, G3, I used to drive to Canada for 5.5 years. I drove to Canada every quarter for 1 month. It's a 19 and a half hour
Yeah, I was
drive,
going to
just
say,
FYI.
good grief.
Yeah.
Right up 95,
A
all the way.
lot of God time. Yep. No, I took 75.
Oh, okay.
It was easier for me to take 75 because a lot of times I was doing it tired and I needed to just have a straight line. On 95, you have to meander a bit. So, a lot of people were concerned about me driving that distance.
Yeah.
And everybody kept saying, Joanne, are you alone? And I'd always say, no, I'm with G3. And they didn't know if they heard that right. But so, oh, good. Glad to know you're not alone. Okay, well, love you, got to go by, click. And, it was God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. And
Oh, I love it. The Trinity.
yes. And so people weren't afraid because I wasn't alone, and I wasn't afraid because I wasn't alone. But so G3 became a very important part of my life during that 5 years, and in that way. So when it came time to do the naming of the village, it just was, well, it's G3
It's
Village.
easy.
And people that don't like this, there's a whole section of the church that doesn't believe in Holy Spirit. So it's giving God glory, which is, just as powerful. So
Indeed. And so is
anyway,
it in Jacksonville or Canada?
it's in Jacksonville,
And how many units?
and it's going to be 40. Understand that it's taken me 3.5 years of talking. I've talked to so many wealthy people here in Jacksonville, and they're all like, "But I want to live there," and I'm like, "But it's not meant for you. You can afford this,"
Right.
and I need it for. So it's 40 units, and the big news is last week the Florida budget passed, and Governor DeSantis has given G3 Village $500,000.
Oh, congratulations. That's
So,
wonderful.
yes, yay! And every senator and House representative that I've talked to were all for it because what G3 Village is, it's totally different than anything that's out there right now. But it's owned and operated by a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
It will make profit, but the profit will go back into the nonprofit to keep the rents moderate. It's a rental property, and it's the pilot version. We're looking at 10 acres right now, and I'm very settled on this 10 acres. I would like it to get larger as we do it in other counties, just to give it space, but we're going to keep this one small at 10 acres, and there'll be 40 units, 30 units of housing. There will be a few of them at 450 square feet, but most of them are 650 square feet. And there are adjoining rooms, so they can end up being, 12 or 1,300 square feet. But they're all under one roof. And all of these units have little kitchenettes and a carport, not a garage and not a full kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is they're all under one roof, and at the far end is the kitchen and the dining facilities. We all eat together. We all cook our meals together. It's a community of people, and part of the rent. And at this point, I won't know until it's built and finished, but we're looking at $2,500 a month, all in, all the food, all of the utilities, your rent, everything.
That's fantastic.
However, there's an addition of 10 hours each week of community service.
Nice.
Have a purpose.
Yeah.
Have a job, whether it's collecting the other thing is that the 10 other units they're higher end. This is for those people that said, I want to live there. They could afford to help us build it, but they want to live there. So we've got 2-bedroom with a kitchen and a garage, separate. All these 10 units, they're cottages per se. But all of that is in the center of a 10-acre homesteading farm.
Wow.
Where there is rotational grazing for the different animals, where we expect in 5 years after our being there, the land will be richer than it's ever been, ever. And we will have up front, we're going to have a small church. We're going to have a small grocery room where people will sign up with a credit card and a passcode. No one will staff it. We will fill it full of food, but you can sign up with your driver's license, and so that we know who you are, and that it'll simply have cameras in it. And you can go in, and if you don't have money that night, you can leave an IOU and we can put it on your credit card. But you will show us what your fresh fruits and vegetables, and we will even have a refrigerator that will have some of our fresh cheese and everything that we do on site. The seniors will have done this, and the profit from that will help keep their rent low
Absolutely. Oh,
and
Joanne, I
give them a.
love it. What a vision you have. And so it sounds like with this money from the legislature, that's the kind of this seed, if you will, capital to get started.
That 500,000 is for the infrastructure on the land. And so right now I'm raising money for the land.
Gotcha.
But we got to do that. There's 5 phases to get this thing built, and purchasing the land and getting infrastructure rocking and rolling and getting the agriculture. We're actually going to work on the agriculture before we even start getting,
That makes
like,
sense.
we will have pole barns and things like that, where the pole barn will have attached to it 1 or 2 living quarters, so that we can have either people that are eventually going to live there, they can come and just serve for help us build it out, help
Yeah.
us do what we need to do.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to partner with Habitat for Humanity
Mm-hmm.
and a local contractor here as well to get the cottages built. But the cottages are kind of like the last thing we want to get built,
Yeah.
but they're also the most income providing.
Right, I
So
was going to say that's
first,
more
I'm
seed
not
capital.
sure, but it really depends on. We have been so blessed so many ways. Now, understand, we're an organization that has lived on $250,000 to $275,000 a year. We're talking about a $18 million project.
Whew.
Now, the cool thing is, I used to work in the movie business.
Yeah.
I've worked with multi-million dollar projects,
Yeah.
brought them in on budget, brought them in on schedule. This is not a big deal to me.
And you
But
grew up
when
on a
people,
farm, so you know that part of it as well,
hello,
right?
and my dad was a contractor. He did that too. I mean, I'm like, okay,
I got
I'm,
this.
yeah, it's not. And in fact, you know what? I had, when we got the money from the government last week, the rubber hit the road at that point. We've raised money, and but we've had drawings and meetings and fundraisers, and the money that we brought in, it wasn't a big chunk to get it. We've spent a lot of money getting the 3.5 years of pre-production done. Now it's like, okay, God, what you gonna do?
Yeah.
Because that 500,000 that came from the government, that had nothing to do with me. That was God. But as I said to you, every one of the senators and the House of Representative people, they all wanted one in their county. When this takes off,
Yeah.
my hope is that we will get a donor that will give half of it, the cost of half of it, and then the community raises the match. And that's how we spread it through the different counties. Somebody from that county give us half of it, and the land if possible.
Mm-hmm.
or else that's part of the buying the land is part of the part of the $18 million. But then the community around it needs to rally and match that one donation. We've got to, because we don't want federal grants. We don't want federal money. We do not want the federal government to be a part of this. This is a ministry. There's going to be Christian things going on there. There's sections of it that are totally open to the public. There, people can live there that haven't signed a statement of faith, but there is a section meant for people that are all out for Jesus and want to finish their life well and have a purpose the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And hopefully, by eating well, by being in community, by exercising every day simply because they have to, it's part of life. Their lives will get better. I mean, we're going to see health in body, in soul, in spirit. I'm so excited for this.
I can tell. Well, because there's power in that koinonia, in that community of faith. Joanne, you're answering a question I was fixing to ask, which is, did the state put any strings attached on the way that you can express your religion? That's fantastic. Way to go, Florida legislature and Governor DeSantis. But I would say, furthermore, a missionary I just talked to yesterday, who's a young woman that is Catholic, Roman Catholic, and going to be a campus ministry at Clemson University in the fall, just spent a month in South Florida at Ave Maria, going through campus minister training, right? And she said almost exactly what you just said about the church there. They were training, Focus is the name of this Catholic ministry. They were training 500 missionaries this summer. And there's power in going to church every day with this group of people who are on a common mission. So I'm just thrilled that you're going to have a church as part of this community, because starting off the day with worship together is not only empowering, it gives you additional purpose beyond the work that then they head out to do.
And people don't understand the power of praise and worship.
Yeah. I
mean, it is a song to the Lord is so incredible. And I'm excited about this village. I have a waiting list of over 40 people, and we only have 40 units, and we haven't really advertised this at all.
And unless I've missed part of the story, you don't even own the land yet. Is that right?
No, I mean, we're dangerously close. We're dangerously close. And I love the property. We've already walked the property. We've anointed the property, and which, much to probably the chagrin of the guy that owns the land, he hasn't been able to sell it for a year. I saw it a year ago, and he is not. And I'm like, I think God has carved it out and kept it.
Exactly. Sorry, pal, but your land's meant for a higher purpose.
Yeah. And God's told me what to give him, and it's lower than what he wants. And I'm like, okay, God, I'll just wait. But I really believe that this is the start of a new wave in the church. It's going back to our roots of being in the garden. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that this is it's going to far outlive me, should God, Jesus tarry. But, part of me was like, God, why am I building these if you're going to be returning soon? Why? And he was like, Joanne, don't you think people are going to need a safe haven? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay, I'm good. I'm good. I'm back on mission.
Got it. Oh, I love that, Joanne. Hey, I got to introduce you to our friend Jared Carty, who was on the show earlier this spring. He has built a farm here in the Emerald Coast, or on the Emerald Coast. He's built a farm, and the folks that are working on his farm are recovering from human trafficking. And so, but it's the same concept of, we have a farm, we have a place for them to work, we're tilling the land and returning the garden. It's just these folks have been, victims of this traumatic incident, as opposed to focusing on, their demographic like you are. But when Jared came to the office to record his episode, he was like, "Oh, my back is killing me." And I was like, "What's the matter, brother?" He said, "I just planted 400 blueberry bushes yesterday." So when it's time, I got a guy for you.
Okay.
when you're ready for
I'm excited.
blueberries. And I'm so excited for you. All right, so we're going to put links to all of this: the trailer, or sorry, the mobile unit, links to the website. Tell us when people, because part of this is we're encouraging people to support Seniors on a Mission. When they give to Seniors on a Mission, can they allocate which of these three ministries to go to, or does it all go to operational funds and then y'all figure it out from there?
They can do that. If a check comes in with no allocation, it typically goes to just our operating, because I want to make sure that the staff can continue to do mission trips and technology pop-ups
Yeah.
while we're working on G3 Village.
Yeah.
If someone really has a heart for G3 Village, please allocate it to G3 Village. And,
Gotcha.
what is it they say? Give like you're giving out of somebody else's pocket,
Love that.
um,
I read somewhere
and there's
the more you make, the more you give. So just keep on
also,
giving.
and there's an opportunity for naming rights and all that sort of stuff. So
Good.
go to our website. You're going to have it posted, but it's g3village.org. So
But that's different than seniorsinamission.org.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, cool.
g3village.org.
Well, Joanne, thank you so much for your time today and sharing these wonderful, inspiring stories. I was an exciting conclusion to our two-part episode. And thank you for blessing us with with not only the story, but the opportunity for the future and assisting seniors on a mission. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
God bless you.
And God bless y'all for watching our episode today. Thank you so much for joining us on the Christian Capitalist Podcast. Please feel free to like, share, follow, do everything you need to do to help us get followed on social media. And please tell your friends about this episode and our podcast ministry. I'm Rich Sanders with the Christian Capitalist, where the more we make, the more we give.